One of the nicest conferences I've been to, especially since it's in the Louvre.
I know, yeah. So this venue is definitely the nicest Web3 event venue that I've ever been in my life. So
it's a nice touch when they had a violin player when we walked in.
For sure, it's very classy. So big shout out to Proof of Talk and to the team behind this event. And you were a speaker, so I heard your panel, and that was great.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So Reeve, before we get started with the questions, maybe you can tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. You are the co-founder of Tether, and you are also involved with a number of projects like WeFi, Stable.com, and a few others. So kind of tell our listeners a little bit about that. You're doing a lot.
Yes, it's been quite a journey. I've been involved in the space since the very beginning. I went down the rabbit hole in 2013. One of my friends started describing Bitcoin to me, and it just really kind of caught my attention on not necessarily just on the currency itself, but the way that currency moved. The fact that you could now move currency globally instantly and for free. And prior to getting involved in Bitcoin and the blockchain space, I was deeply involved in the internet. So I was fortunate enough my first job out of college was at one of the very first ever online advertising agencies. So I had a front row seat to seeing the internet explode upon the world. And what that really showed me was like how massive a transformation a new technology can have. And that technology allowed us to move information globally, instantly, and for free. Prior to that, it just was a completely different paradigm. It was a full paradigm shift. And so I saw the internet just kind of take over the world. And then almost, I guess it was about 15 years later, in 2013, a new technology came that brought that same level of innovation and that ability to move money globally, instantly, and free. And so that's what really caught my attention about the blockchain. And that's how kind of the concept of Tether came. It's like, well, the type of money that's being moved is Bitcoin. And especially back then, no one understood it. Bitcoin is this weird type of foreign currency based in code that's super volatile that no one really knew or liked or really understood. But the technology, the blockchain that allowed you to move that Bitcoin really was revolutionary. So is Bitcoin as a new type of currency, but that just took a little longer for people to understand. But we saw the potential of what the blockchain could do. And so the concept was, let's format dollars, euros, yen that only worked in the traditional financial system. Let's format them so they could work on the blockchain. So it really was the first ever RWA. So we tokenized the dollar long before the term RWA or stablecoins or anything else. But that was my first foray into the blockchain. Yeah.
Right. So you tokenized the US dollar, and this was Tether, right? So yeah. When was Tether started? When was this? What year?
The concept, the end of 2013. I think we created the company beginning of 2014. Yeah, it was a very different world. I remember the first Tether deck in the kind of the forecast. It was like in 6 years, we'll have $5 billion AUM. And I think that was pretty significantly exceeded.
So for our listeners that may not understand, let's talk about why stablecoins are innovative and why, Tether created this like huge, killer use case for blockchain and crypto, or, stablecoins, right? Just explain that.
Well, absolutely. There's a number of reasons. Like starting with the desire for dollars. Like prior to blockchain and prior to Tether, the only way you could get dollars was either be in the US or utilize exchanges or banks to really try to buy dollars. So they weren't accessible to many people around the world. So there was a high demand for dollars, but no ability to get them. And tokenizing the dollar, and then once people understood and realized and learned how to utilize wallets and the tokens, they realized they could now get dollars. So you could move dollars now across borders with no middlemen and no bank accounts, like frictionlessly. That's the whole point of globally, instantly, and for free. Before you're moving crypto, now you're moving dollars. And so Tether laid the foundation for the entire cryptocurrency ecosystem to be built on top of. The reason being because when Tether first came out, it still was a very small group of people who appreciated the value of it. And that would be the exchanges. The first use case was exchanges moving money from their order books to other exchanges' order books. So the exchanges moved money amongst themselves because back then they couldn't get banking, or it was very challenging. And they also didn't want to take their money out of crypto, put it in dollars, put it in the bank account, and then wait for that very inefficient process. So they were the first adopters, the early adopters. And then they listed it, and then traders started using it, because then they could, instead of trading from Bitcoin into dollars, they could trade Bitcoin into an on-chain dollar. So again, they wouldn't have to take it out of the system. They could keep it in the system. So it became the base trading pair for everything. And after the traders got comfortable with it, realizing this is amazing, there's so much utility here that I can now have a dollar outside of a bank account and I can send it to anyone in the world instantly and almost for free, they started sending it to other people who weren't traders. And that's how payments were born. So other people outside of the system started getting it. And then the people who needed it most, such as people who are underserved, who have poor banking infrastructure in their countries, or that don't have access to dollars, they will go through a lot of hoops, because the dollar, if you stack rank the currencies, the 180 plus currencies or so, the dollar is always number one. And if you're in the top 10, that's pretty good. But anyone below that would love to upgrade to the dollar. And so for the first time, people really had access to do that. And so this process took years. So what I'm describing is kind of the evolution of the stablecoin, but it finally got there to where people all around the world really appreciate and feel the impact of having the ability to have dollars. Just today, actually, I read, I believe in Bolivia, they are listing in the grocery stores, they're listing prices in USDT.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, so they're starting to list prices in USDT because their currency is so challenging, let's put it that way.
Right. And I know that we're also wondering, will we see that mainstream adoption, in the United States or countries that don't need it, but will we ever get to the point where we'll be able to go to the grocery store and transact in USDT?
Well, you're already there. So there's lots of services that provide cards where you top up in stable coins, and then when you pay, the exchange is done on the merchant level, and the store gets dollars and you're paying in stable coins. So people are already today able to pay anywhere with stable coins through Visa cards. That was one of the first use cases that I thought of years ago, which was people wanted to roll out crypto debit cards where you pay with Bitcoin, but why would you want to pay with Bitcoin? Bitcoin is your savings account. Tether, stable coins are your checking account, because those are just on-chain cash. And then you get to pull from your savings account whenever you want to sell the Bitcoin into your checking account. And now we're finally there.
Interesting. Yeah, I love how you break down that evolution of stable coins. And even today, stable coins are like one of the biggest use cases for blockchain technology and for transactions. I use stable coins to make payments a lot, actually.
Absolutely, because the technology leap from the traditional financial system to blockchain is massive. It's a huge leap forward. It's so much more efficient, easier to use, and lower barriers to entry once you get over that hurdle of either self-custody or using a wallet or using a different system. And that's, again, why the internet exploded onto the scene in 2 years. There was no regulatory oversight, there was no regulatory pressure. It was just a free-for-all when the internet came out and everyone adopted it. Well, when Bitcoin and blockchain came on scene, since it was money, before they didn't realize the impact and the power of the free movement of information, but everyone understood the free movement of money. And so it was heavily restricted, heavily regulated, tried to squash it. But once that genie's out of the bottle, once people have experienced the ability to have a monetary system that exists outside of their country's monetary system, the service is so much better, you can't stop it. The best analogy that I like to use about this is, think about Uber. Uber, when it came out, it was illegal in a lot of places, literally. And there was like strikes from the taxis, and then some countries outlawed it, and then Uber fought like lawsuits in every state and every country, but they won 100% of the time. Even when they lost it first, the people demanded it, and so it was overturned, and Uber is now ubiquitous.
Right.
Why? Because it is so much better than the taxis. It provides such a powerful solution that you can't stop it. And that's the same thing with stable coins and cryptocurrency. And now finally the governments are realizing it. So you can like Donald Trump or hate Donald Trump, but either way, what he's done for crypto truly is absolutely game changing.
Right.
Because one of the most interesting pieces about that is no legislation has changed yet, right? Legislation's been introduced and it might change. However, just the fact that he became president and said, I'm pro crypto, and he's shifted around the people in power, especially in the SEC, and a lot of the lawsuits against crypto companies have been dropped, everyone's moving forward as if it was regulated. They're like, okay, fine, I'm ready to dive in because I know I'm not going to get my head chopped off by the SEC. I'm not going to get in trouble. And it's the pace of innovation and the amount of money and entrepreneurs flowing into the space now. It's amazing. And I've seen this happen a lot of times over the years. On every boom, so much money and innovation comes in, then there's a bust and there's kind of a lag, and then every boom it comes in. But this time, those booms were caused by the rise in the price or a new novel application, such as the first boom was ICOs. The next boom was ICOs, then it was DeFi, then it was NFTs, then it was the metaverse. And after each boom, there was a big bust. But this time, the boom wasn't done through a new innovation. It was done simply because we have a president who's very pro-crypto, and we know that legislation's coming to support it. And so this boom is going to have a much more deep impact and longevity because it's not built on hype. It's built on the regulatory shift, which then brings massive institutional attention and demand and dollars into the space.
And when you say this boom, are we talking about stablecoins or tokenization?
I'm talking about blockchain in general.
Okay.
I'm talking about the sentiment and the feeling and just the global vibe around crypto, right? I've been in it since the beginning, and it's so interesting to see how it ebbs and flows. But right now, it's not ebbing and flowing because the price went up. It's amazing that the price is up, but that's not the driver of the amount of attention that the industry is getting right now. The driver is the fact that governments are leaning in around the world.
Right.
Trump started it with the Bitcoin reserve in the US. Multiple states have followed suit. Now multiple countries have followed suit. And then it's just going to kind of trickle down through their economy through that. And then the institutions can get involved. So it's a shifting in people's attitude towards crypto in general.
So we're seeing this shift now, finally, but you've been in the industry for a very long time, and Tether was started in 2014.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you feel back then starting? I mean, was it the first stable coin? I mean,
yeah, for sure. We created the category. We invented the concept in the space. And back then, we really had to create some robust technology to be able to tokenize this. We used this platform called Mastercoin, which evolved into another company called Omni. But we had to modify that in order just to be able to write messages to the Bitcoin blockchain. Tether was first on Bitcoin, and then it migrated to Ethereum, and so it's really it powered the Ethereum ecosystem, and now it's on a lot of other chains. But it started out on Bitcoin because that was the only chain there was. It took a couple of years for Ethereum to come to the market, and so we created some really robust technology. But all that technology and everything, it's so commoditized right now. But we were very much ahead of its time, so much so that in the end of 2015, the market crashed. So like Bitcoin went from like 1,200 to 180 or something like that, just this massive crash. And we ended up selling the company. And then the industry itself was in this kind of 2-year lag from 2015 till the end of 2017. So Ethereum did their crowd sale at the end of 2014, but they didn't launch their platform until 2017. And the end of 2016, 2017. But anyways, there was nothing going on in the space because Bitcoin had all this run up and then it crashed. And then there was just kind of this lull until Ethereum launched. And then people were like, we bought all this ETH a few years ago, and now we got a lot of value, the price has gone up, what do we do? And Ethereum allowed you to easily create tokens. And so people are like, oh, I can now create a token and sell it to the crowd, and they can give me Ethereum for it and buy my token. And so what that created was the ICO boom. What all it really was speculation, because the companies are saying, oh, buy my token, which is almost like saying buy my stock, except for it's worse because you don't get any regulatory oversight, you don't get any rights, you don't get any dividends, you don't get any value of the company, you just get this artificial structure to create value to that token. But that was all done in order for people to speculate and gamble on tokens. And what does the whole world love to do? everyone in the world, it's ubiquitous, gambling. There's people that don't like it, but like everyone around the world likes to gamble and in some way, shape, or form. And and this is the first time a global casino was available. Anyone with a cell phone could participate in this really cool, fun, new, unique type of casino that people were making tons of money on. And that is what drove that massive run up in 2017, the ICO boom. And then the bust, because people were putting all this money in these tokens and these companies that didn't really deliver on any promises.
Right.
I did an ICO. So I created a company called BlockV. So after bringing the stablecoin to the market and creating that concept, the next thing, we were the first ever. We're not really credited with the creation of the NFT, but my company, BlockV, were the first people to really concept this idea of an NFT and bring that to market far before an NFT, like the word NFT was out there. So we created a highly programmable digital goods, because with Tether, it's money, right? And there is so much risk involved with Tether, especially in the beginning. Like the amount of risk I had as the CEO was significant. I had friends that went to jail in crypto because of missteps and things. And then I knew that when I talked to all my attorneys, they're like saying everything you're doing is extraordinarily risky because of the money transmission laws and all of the different things that revolve around it. So it was very high risk. So after Tether, the concept was, what's not going to be high risk? Well, digital collectibles. In like unique objects where you can program this object and it is non-fungible and it has value. And so let's put collectibles, let's put tickets, let's put coupons and loyalty and everything on chain. And so we had that concept and did an ICO in 2017 called BlockV, and we actually raised $22 million. And what I'm proud to say about that, there was 1,000 ICOs in 2017, but we raised $22 million. ETH went up to like $600 or something. And so we ended up with a significant amount of money, and we built an extraordinary technology platform. So we're one of the few that actually utilized that money and built something that has real longevity. And so that company's still alive, and the ticker and the token's still alive, and it's actually above the ICO price after 8 years. And the technology that we've built has since evolved into another company called Smartmedia Technologies. And we've built an extremely robust Web3 wallet and ability to tokenize things like these NFTs, starting with loyalty points and coupons and tickets and all the use cases for NFTs. And Visa has white labeled our platform. So Visa, because we used that money to build something robust enough for a company like Visa, and that took years for them to do the due diligence and then to integrate this platform as one of their products, as their Web3 wallet. And so we're super proud of that. And that's all powered by V through the BlockV platform. And so even though that was 8 years in the making, it's just something that I am proud of because we built something very special there.
So Visa's Web3 wallet is powered by this. Can you explain that?
So
what is Visa's Web3 wallet?
They have a loyalty and engagement program at Visa, and they're rolling it out to their banks. And they're saying, here's a product that we have that you can utilize to better reward your customers.
Okay.
So it's the next generation of loyalty. They're going to get a lot more interactive, engaging, and a lot more use out of the loyalty points that consumers are. And so the banks are going to get more value because people want to reward their consumers, but loyalty points are kind of stale and dead. And we're just really revamping that. And so those products are being rolled out, and we get to go hand in hand. Smart Media goes hand in hand with Visa and to sell this solution. We did a pilot program, a great program for the Olympics. So you got the little mascot, which is this little bird of the Olympics, and you could collect them. And if you got a few, then answer some quizzes, and you get rewards and free swag.
This was at the Paris,
at the Paris
last
Olympics.
Year? Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we rolled out a bunch of campaigns around the world for global companies.
Wow, it's so crazy that I didn't know about this until now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the other projects that you're involved with, because you co-founded Tether, that happened. Now you're doing a few other things.
Yeah. So fast forward a decade, and it's time for the stablecoin to evolve. So I have a new company called stable.com, STBL.com, and it's the evolution of the stablecoin. Because the stablecoin has laid this foundation, and there's the use case has been proven, and the whole world is benefiting from the infrastructure and from the ability to utilize stablecoins. But what they're not benefiting from is the yield generated. And everyone knows how much money the centralized entities like Tether and Circle and the other stablecoin issuers are making, but the users aren't getting to share in that. So what is the promise of Web3? That's all near and dear to our heart. The promise of Web3 is to reward the community and to ensure that they are participating in the value that they create. Because they didn't get to participate in the value they created in Web2. They got to use a service, but they never got the value from it. But Web3, the wallet, the NFTs, and the tokens enable them to do that. So with stablecoins, the solution is, okay, share the yield. But the challenge with sharing yield with stablecoins is that it becomes a security. And so it's highly regulated, especially in the US and even in other countries. So that restricts the people who can access it and trade it and use it. So it's not globally useful at the same level as a freely trading stablecoin like Tether. The second challenge with a yield-bearing stablecoin is that you have to hold on to it to earn the yield. And so then it becomes an investment. You're just kind of sitting on it, earning, you don't really want to spend it. So Stable has solved both of those issues in the sense that now that RWAs and treasuries and other high-quality assets are on-chain, the user can buy that on-chain treasury themselves and then stake it on the protocol and mint the stablecoin. And when they mint the stablecoin, we strip the yield, so the user gets to keep the yield, and the stablecoin is non-yield bearing, so it's not a security. It's freely trading, identical to Tether and Circle. And so it's used in the exact same use cases. But in this case, the user is the one that keeps the yield. So we're giving the yield back to the community because we use technology to replace what used to take lots of people and then regulators and then governments to oversee, right? The banking system is all replaced by technology. And the fact that the collateral, which once Tether had to go buy the treasury for, is available on chain. So now the user can do 100% of it himself, meaning they should get the lion's share of all of the revenue from it. The platform takes a small fee, but that's just a technology fee. So we believe that's the evolution of the stablecoin, where the users are the ones that are really going to reap the yields and reap the rewards from utilizing them.
Okay, because you said you strip the yield, right? And you take a small percent, but the user keeps the yield that you strip?
Yes. So to simplify it, a treasury is one token that has yield, that's principal and yield, right?
Yes.
When you stake in our protocol, we turn it into two tokens.
Okay.
The yield becomes one token, and the principal becomes another. And so now the user has that. We charge a small fee for doing that, but now the user has it, and he can spend the principal and keep the yield.
I see, on the platform.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, and then that way they earn from that. But
right.
Still
they earn in the moment they send out the stable coin. Just like if you were to get $10,000 of USDC and send it to someone, you were able to send $10,000 USDC and they send you cash. Okay, but now instead of buying USDC, let's say that you bought the treasury and you minted USST, you get the yield on it. You send someone $10,000 or the stable coin, they send you the cash. You get your money back, but you keep the yield.
Yeah.
So it's the same service that USDC and Tether are performing, but it's all done on chain via the technology.
What is the token called again? UST.
So the company's stbl.com, and the stable coin will be USST for US stable.
USST.
Yeah.
And it has not launched yet.
No.
Okay, but it will soon.
Coming soon.
Great. I'm excited. What I love about that use case as well is you've got a stable coin that's stable, right? It's tied to the US dollar, but you still earn. So it's almost kind of like crypto, right? Except it's not that volatility that you see with it.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? That sounded better in my head.
It's a stable coin that you get the yield from.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Okay.
And what I also really enjoy about this platform is it's a collaborative layer, not competitive, because there are tons of high quality yield bearing stablecoins coming out. We want users to go buy those, but then bring them to our platform. So we're partnering with the yield bearing stablecoin issuers and saying, hey, great, sell these to your consumers, because we don't tokenize treasuries. That's what those issuers do. And then once you buy, for instance, Ondo, you buy that, bring that to our platform, and then get utility out of it. You get the yield from Ondo, you get the utility from us because we strip it, and then you can spend the stablecoin. So it's a collaborative layer in the space. So it makes it more fun to bring to market.
In terms of the user that you're targeting for this product, those are retail investors or?
At first, it's institutions and exchanges and governments to utilize the infrastructure, and they can also utilize USST to back a white labeled stable coin that has more controls. And it's best to start there to build up the TVL and the acceptance of USST, and then retail will be able to access it as well. So we're absolutely creating it for the end user, but the first go to market will be more institutions.
And that's kind of like what we saw with stable coins in general, as you explained, like exchanges use them, and then eventually like people like myself now can use them. Great, that's really exciting.
Yeah, and then, so that's the new stable coin, but the next piece in delivering on the promise of blockchain, which is democratized access to high quality financial services for the world. We're finally ready for that. And so that's my company called WeFi. So that's wefi.co. And it is a Deobank. We've coined a new term called Deobank, a decentralized on-chain bank. So there's banking in the traditional systems, and then the neobank, which is using the traditional system, but with no physical presence, just online. And the Deobank is, instead of using the traditional system, it's online, but it's using the future system, the blockchain. And so what that enables is just better services at cheaper rates, because the blockchain does what the regular system does, but just much, much, much more efficiently and on a global scale. And so we've packaged and simplified the complexities of utilizing blockchain-based wallets and making investments in DeFi and different things like that. We've really created a very simple and friendly user interface and beautiful brand around it called WeFi. So people can then just get higher quality services. So the first product is a card, and then it'll be lending, and then it'll be actually earning high yield on your savings account, above 10%, and then access to DeFi investments all through this user interface.
And has that launched yet?
That's launched.
Okay.
Yeah. And the beauty of WeFi is we're also putting the community first, and WeFi is truly delivering on the promise of Web3, which is ensuring the community is the one that gets rewarded for participation. So there's a token. So we have an ITO, which is an initial technology offering, and people can buy into that, which mines WeFi tokens, which power the network and provide all the rewards. And since we're doing that type of sale, because then tens of thousands of people, and soon over 100,000 people, will be investors and customers. Because while we do provide very efficient banking services in a very beautiful package, there are a lot of people providing banking services. So how do you get ahead in that? You get lots of customers by making them your investors and by rewarding them the most and by giving them the rewards of the network. And the larger the network grows, the more the consumers get. So that's the approach we're taking with WeFi, and really focused on the countries that do need it most. And so very excited about that rollout, going to Bangkok the end of this week actually for a big event there, and really proud to see that one come to market also.
Right, and you said the countries that need it the most, so like Bangkok, or is that one of the ones that, you know? Yeah,
lots of Asian countries, and where there's large populations that are underserved by the banking system, which it's a global problem, that's for sure.
Right.
But we are focused right now in Asia, but it's rolling out in a lot of different countries.
Right, yeah, maybe we'll see it in the United States at some point.
Yes, but that, in order for it to come to the United States, it needs to be more than just the regulatory winds at our back. It needs the regulations to be passed and set, and we need to understand how to navigate the regulatory landscape in order to not get in any trouble and make sure that we're adhering to everything. Mm-hmm. So it's in the beginning, it's easier to kind of roll these things out overseas, where we hold ourselves to those standards, but since the standards haven't even been set yet, you just never know what will happen. But yeah, it should be coming to the US soon as well.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for that. So in terms of stablecoins and innovation, or just things that you're excited about moving forward, what do you want our listeners to know about, besides the projects that you're now doing? Yeah,
I know. Thanks for letting me share about that. Yeah. Look, I'll tell you, for the user, the future is bright. And so AI, massive impact on everything. And to me, AI is going to have a significant impact on the blockchain and our ecosystem and how people interact with the ecosystem. Most importantly, people are going to stop asking what chain is it on, or which stablecoin are you going to use, or how do I best send the money here or there. They're not going to care anymore, because they're going to ask their AI, or I should say, tell their AI, tell their wallet. It won't even be their AI. They're literally going to talk to their wallet and say, do this, like send $10 to my friend in Japan. Send it in the fastest, cheapest way. They're not going to care which stable coins used or which networks used or anything else. People are going to finally start focusing on getting done what they want done versus how to get it done. So what do people want done? They want to make payments. They want to make investments. They want to be involved in different communities. And right now, to make payments and do investments in the crypto space, it's complicated, especially if you want to do self-custody. It's very complicated. There's lots of risks. You might lose your password. You might get hacked. And so and since it's so complicated, the best user interface isn't going to mask that complication. The only way to solve like this interface moment for blockchain where the masses can participate is through AI. And that's coming soon, and it's probably coming faster than we think. But to me, that's something to lean into for everyone, is the understanding of the nuances of AI, how it works, how to get the most out of it, not just through crypto, but in all aspects of their life. Because like it or not, it's hitting us like a tidal wave, and a lot of people still kind of shy away from it. And so my encouragement is, yes, learn about blockchain and lean in, but just more importantly, learn about AI in all aspects of your life and how you can utilize it, because if you don't, you will quickly be left behind. So
yeah, that's interesting. And I'm glad you bring that up, because I was going to ask you about AI and I forgot. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I know we're running low on time. So if our listeners want to get in touch with you, are you on X? Are you on social media? How can they reach out?
Yep, absolutely. Find me on X. That'd be great at Reeve_Collins.com or Reeve_Collins.
Yeah, right. Not the .com. All the internet talk, we're like starting to, yeah. Wonderful. Well, Reeve, it was a real honor and pleasure to have you on the podcast, and hopefully we can do a follow-up. You are fascinating. I mean, you are like, I see you as the creator of the stable coin, and that's just crazy because stable coins are huge now. And so